It's been reported in multiple newspapers that Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, has said that Britain, so workers, are addicted to furlough. I have to say that is one of the most offensive and ridiculous and appalling comments I've possibly heard in the history of politics. If it is true that he has said it, or someone in his administration has made that comment. It's ridiculous because the government has put us into a lockdown because of this coronavirus crisis. No worker in Britain is in any capacity responsible for this crisis. No worker in Britain is responsible for implementing a furlough scheme. They could have chosen a universal basic income. They chose a furlough scheme and a self-employed insurance scheme. They're trying to encourage people to stay home. In order to encourage people to stay home, you have to give them economic independence. You have to give them insurance so that they won't try and get another job and have to leave their home to put food on the table, or to face economic misery on universal credit, which millions will not accept, even in the time of a global pandemic. The vast majority of people who are on a furlough scheme have only been paid once if they're paid monthly. We've only had it for around 5 weeks. The lockdown is potentially going to be, depending on how you define lockdown, but the actual total period at which parts of the economy are shut down could be 4 months, if not longer, with pubs and restaurants only opening, according to the leaked blueprint, in late August, September. To say that workers are addicted to furlough after only being on it for a few weeks, when it was a government decision to implement a furlough scheme, when they've only insured 80% of income, they've not insured 100%, when the actual costs are small in comparison to the actual cost to the whole economy, if they enabled mass human suffering and everyone having to go on to universal credit essentially, and having much reduced incomes, much reduced disposable income, having people losing their homes, losing their livelihoods, can't pay bills. If they didn't implement a furlough scheme or a universal basic income system, the effects on the economy would cost a lot more than the 40 to 50 billion that this may cost. And even if it cost 100 billion, that is still a pittance to what it cost the British taxpayer in 2008 when they bailed out the banks at the tune of £500 billion, which is £500 billion. Saying that workers are addicted to furlough implies that it is their fault that they're being furloughed. Are workers responsible for businesses not having cash kept away for a rainy day, when the vast majority of workers have no significant effect on company policy and salary, etc., because we have no workplace democracy in Britain? Are British workers responsible for company law that states that the principal goal of a company is to make money for shareholders? Would the Chancellor prefer to have millions and millions unemployed and to have the effect on everything else, the massive decrease in consumer spending and the knock-on effect to all aspects of the economy that would have? Would he rather have that than give someone a capped 80% of salary up to £2,500? You know, it's always interesting when Conservatives say they don't like state handouts, and at the same time the British government permits over £100 billion a year, probably much higher than that, in appalling tax avoidance by the big companies that operate, the big multinationals that operate in Britain like Amazon, Starbucks, etc. By complicated tax measures, transfer pricing, they are able to artificially alter where they generate profit, so that the profit that is actually generated in Britain at Britain's taxpayers' expense, because we pay for the roads that take people to the shops, we pay for people's healthcare, we pay for people's education, etc. But these companies don't think that they should have to pay fair tax, and the British government permits this grotesque avoidance when it could, if it wanted to, change tomorrow morning the law and have it such that they had to pay their fair share. So if we're losing over £100 billion a year, this scheme hasn't even cost 50 billion yet. Why are they never bothered about them types of handouts? Why are they never bothered about corporate handouts? And this is during times of not a pandemic. Now we are in a pandemic, and Rishi Sunak's response is to call people addictive. Does Rishi Sunak not think it's sick when we give massive companies at nearly £100 billion corporate tax breaks and other types of subsidies, etc., where big businesses use the nanny state so that they can artificially generate more profit? Is that not addictive? Are they addicted to that? To claim that workers are addicted to furlough, meaning we're addicted to having subsistence during this time, so that we don't lose our homes and don't lose our mortgages and don't lose our livelihoods, and we can put food on the table. It's sick mentality, that's what it is. It's disgusting, absolutely appalling language. That's exactly what it is. Of course, we know the truth, and the truth is that massive sectors of British capital are wanting to get profits flowing again and to get workers back to work before it is perhaps in the interests of us to go back to work. Hence why the Daily Mail and the Sun were running stories about how they cannot wait for the lockdown to be over, when Boris Johnson announced that the beginning of the end of the lockdown, so the start of the phased end of the lockdown, will begin probably on Bank Holiday Monday. And Mr. Sunak has also made a terrible comment in that he's now saying that we're closing down, or we're considering closing down the furlough scheme. They're deciding essentially what to do next after July the 1st. They're deciding whether to end it or to drop it down to 60% instead of maintaining it at 80% of levels, even though they don't know at this point what the outlook will be in Britain, both in terms of the virus and in terms of businesses going bust. Because if they didn't implement furlough, there would be millions of businesses going bust, or millions of businesses providing mass layoffs. And now they're threatening to drop the scheme to 60% or less, even though pubs and restaurants may not open until September. And they're ringing the austerity bells. They're going to want to implement further austerity, not because it's politically necessary, but because it is class war. It's a disgrace, and we have to resist it.